Hello and welcome to today's video. Alright, you saw the title. This month's mashup is Zombie Big Bird. You know, I'm blaming you guys for this. This isn't on me. Yes, I put the choices up, but nobody said you had to pick Zombie, and nobody said Big Bird had to be in the same month as Zombie. Like, Zombie Godzilla would be okay, even a zombie pig, but Zombie Big Bird seems like it's just going too far. Now, I know I've done some other zombie cartoon characters before, but, you know, this is more something from my childhood when I was little. So, I always state my channel's family friendly, and it still is, and it still will be. But this video might be, you know, just a little too dark for the real little ones that watch my channel. So if you have a little one that you're worried about this video being too graphic for them, maybe you should watch it first and make sure it's okay. I'm gonna keep it cartoony, but it's still gonna have a little bit of gore factor to it because it is a zombie. So, alright, here I go. Let's get started on Zombie Big Bird. So I've got everything set up on my desk that I need to make this project. I've got some foil to build up for the base. I've got my tools. I've got orange, yellow, red, white, and black clay. And I've got a reference photo loaded up on my phone of Big Bird. The first thing I'm going to do is take my foil and get the basic shape of Big Bird's body and his head. Then I'm going to cut some wires I'm going to use to attach the head to the body and his arm. So I'm starting off with the yellow clay, which is the sunshine. And I'm covering the body of Big Bird first, and then I'll cover the head and kind of go from there. Now I did get out some brown clay that I'm using to kind of dirty up the yellow because I just thought it was too bright. But then when I started working with it some more, I decided to mix in some of this other yellow that's a little bit darker and mix in some black and some white, just to kind of give it a more dingy look. I just felt that the sunshine yellow was, you know, too much of a pastel or a light yellow, and then it just didn't work if I wanted to make him look more dingy. So I mixed that in, and I went ahead and recovered the body and covered the head. And then the next thing I'm going to do is work on his arm. So I want his right arm or wing to be outstretched, so he's like, you know, reaching for somebody. So I used a wire to support that, and then I just sculpted and added the hand at the end there. Then I went ahead and I tried a method for the feathers. I used a paper clip and opened it up so I'd have that U shape, and I thought that would work to give it an indentation and give the impression of the feathers. But I didn't really like that look, so I went ahead and smoothed it back out, and I'll try something different later. So then I'll go ahead and move on to his head. So I did the indentions for the eyes, and then I wanted to go ahead and sculpt his beak. Now, a lot of zombies in movies and shows, they'll kind of lose their jaw or part of their mouth or whatever. So I thought it would be a good zombie look to have Big Bird with part of his beak missing. And so I did that on the upper and the lower beak, and then added some dark red at the end. So once I added his beak, I could go ahead and move on and do his eyes. Now his eyes, normally when I do white, I want to keep it very clean, but for this case, it was fine if they had other specks in there, and it just kind of work making them not as, you know, clean. So for his pupils, I mixed white and black together to give a gray look, instead of doing a very, you know, dark black pupils that would have a high contrast with the eyeball. I wanted to have just kind of a slight contrast to just kind of give that undead look. And then for his left wing, I decided to go ahead and have it as if it's been ripped off. Now, if you'll notice, my zombie of SpongeBob and Fred Flintstone were the same way. I don't know why. When I make a lot of zombies, those are the only two, but I end up not sculpting the left arm. It's nice to be able to, leave something off and kind of give that dismembered look to them. But I don't know why I always gravitate to doing that side. I'm sure some psychologist could tell you, but I don't know. With his left side done, I decided to make a change to his face. I wanted to have some kind of a dark circles under his eyes. So I added some black under his eyes, and then I put the eyeballs back on, and then I did the feathers on the top of his head. For the rest of his feathers, I decided to just take a ball tool and kind of drag it all over the rest of his body. And the main thing to do on this is just keep them going in the same direction, or, mostly in the same direction. So it kind of gives that look of some kind of texture. I wasn't worried about doing individual feathers for this guy just because that would take forever. But I just wanted to add some extra detail into it so it just wasn't smooth and kind of gave that, impression of having some feathers on him. The last thing I wanted to do on the upper portion of this sculpture is I wanted to add some veins to his eyes. So I just took a little bit of the dark red and did these little worms and added it on around the eyeballs. And I did this to both eyes. And it's pretty tricky to work with, but when you get these small pieces, you can attach them to the end of a needle tool there and just kind of get them in place and then just kind of press them in. And once they're pressed in, they'll bond with that other clay, especially after it's baked. So that won't be an issue when it's done. And then I just added a little more detail. I gave him kind of like a wound to his front. And then the last thing I want to do, or need to do, is his legs and feet. So I'm sculpting these out of orange clay. So I did the feet, and then I did shorter legs than the regular Big Bird, just because I needed the stability to be able to have him stand. But once I had these done, I thought they looked too smooth. So I went ahead and took one of my tools, the needle tool, and went over them and added some little marks and details and stuff. And one of the other things I did was remove one of his toes and add a little bit of red clay on that part where I cut that toe off. All that's left is a few minor touch-ups. And you'll notice the Big Bird body kept wanting to fall over, so I did go ahead and put some foil under there, and I also used that foil to support it while baking. Now it's time to bake our clay. Remember, always bake your clay according to package instructions. Now I did bake the body and the feet separate, so I'm going to go ahead and use super glue gel to put those together. And then I've got some gloss coat that I'm going to put over the eyes and some of the bloody areas. So I just take a little bit of the super glue gel and then hold it in place for a few seconds. I think it says 10 to 15 to hold it. I usually do it a little bit longer than that just to make sure it's sturdy. And then I mix up my gloss coat and just kind of paint it on the eyeballs where I've got that his beak that's tore off, and then I will do his wound on his chest and where his left wing should be, and then his last part is just that little toe area. So I'll go ahead and let him dry. Normally I let it dry overnight, but this one I wasn't too worried about it since it wasn't completely covered, so I'll just let it dry for a few hours. And here is the finished Zombie Big Bird for July 2019's Monthly Mashup Challenge. I did want to go ahead and show you how big this guy was, just so you have a general idea. So he's a little under 6 inches tall, and right around 15 centimeters tall. Kind of bring this guy in, take a closer look at some of the details. As you can see, that gloss coat really adds a lot to his eyes and to the bloody areas. Pretty happy with how this guy turned out, even though I wasn't really on board on doing a zombie version of Big Bird. Like I said, he just, Sesame Street's something I grew up with, so kind of went a little bit too far back. As you saw in the intro, I have done like Fred Flintstone and SpongeBob, but those never seem to be as off limits as something like Big Bird. But anyway, I went with the votes and made the zombie Big Bird. If you want to check out my other monthly mashup videos, there is a playlist down below. Also, on Thursday's video this week, I'll have the choices for August 2019's monthly mashup challenge. So Zombie and Big Bird will be removed from those, and I'll add a couple of new ones. And I might change them out, a few others that didn't get as many votes too. So be sure to check back on Thursday's video and vote for your choices for the next monthly mashup challenge. Well, thank you so much for watching today's video. And remember, never stop creating. Bye.